Well, I have some interesting information in regards to a gamma ray burst that we experienced on our planet back in 2004. Now, this article appears on the Daily Galaxy and was published on the 27th of December 2012, and it's in relation to a pretty intense gamma ray burst that we experienced on the 27th of December 2004. In fact, this article is going on to say that it was the greatest gamma ray burst that we've experienced. However, unfortunately, this article is basing the information off the very flawed Big Bang gravity-driven universe theory instead of the electric universe theory, and instead of the linear model of evolution and time. We actually have to understand that we live in a cycle of constant change, and we are infinitely within these cycles, and there are cycles within other cycles within other cycles, right up to the macrocosm and then right down to the microcosm. And this is basically how our universe exists, within cycles. And so do we. We are all part of this universe. We also go through these cycles, and we experience times on our planet of higher consciousness and then times on our planet of lower consciousness. And it's all to do with the cycles that we are in, and it's all to do with the light that we receive. This is why the religious institutions that are exactly the same as the scientific institutions, in fact, they go hand in hand, because they are there to limit our understanding of ourselves and our universe, because that is how we stay controlled, and that is how we do not ever understand our true power and our true divinity. The fact is that we are electric beings, and we exist in an electric universe, and everything that happens above us in the cosmos happens on our physical realm, which is Mother Earth, and also within us. Once we start understanding that law of correspondence, it really does make understanding our place within this universe a lot easier. Now, this gamma ray burst, interestingly, came from Sagittarius, constellation Sagittarius, which is some 50,000 light years away. Now, for all of you who aren't aware, Sagittarius is actually the constellation that contains the galactic center, or the galactic core. And so this is where this gamma ray burst was emitted. Although they are saying that it is from a neutron star or some type of pulsar, unfortunately for them, neutron stars actually don't exist. They're just another part of their mythology, just like pulsars. If we have a look at what Donald E. Scott, retired professor of engineering and a member of the IEEE, states, he goes on to say that we know from laboratory experiments that any lone neutron decays into a proton, an electron, and a neutron in less than 14 minutes. Atom-like collections of 2 or more neutrons will fly apart almost instantaneously. There is no such thing as neutronium. Therefore, there can be no such entity as a neutron star. It is a fiction that flies in the face of all we know about elements and their atomic nuclei. Now, that is just one example of how the electric universe theory continues to show this flat earth science for what it is, and that is nothing but fiction and mythology. Nothing but mile-long equations created to explain the most simplistic elements of our cosmos. And unfortunately for them, as we become more conscious and we begin questioning more, their equations aren't really holding up. And for anyone that is interested in understanding the true model behind how our universe works, I would suggest that you look into the thunderbolts.info website, and I will post a link underneath the video for you to have a look at that in more detail. So let's have a look at this article. It goes on to say that for a brief instant, a couple of tenths of a second on December the 27th, 2004, an invisible burst of energy, the equivalent of 500,000 years of sunlight, shone on the Earth. Many orbiting satellites' electronics were zapped, and the Earth's upper atmosphere was amazingly ionized from a massive hit of gamma ray energy. Now, that's really interesting because we are experiencing an over-ionization of our atmosphere anyway. That's already happening. Our atmosphere is already collapsing. And if we continue to have a very weak solar maximum, then our atmosphere is going to continue to collapse. And when that happens, it allows in these gamma rays. And let's not forget, if you've looked at my previous videos in regards to the G2 cloud, we can expect that in mid-year of 2013, when this G2 cloud actually collides with our galactic core, that we're going to experience a shockwave. And if we experience this shockwave without the protection of our atmosphere, because it's collapsing currently, then it's going to let in a lot more of this cosmic energy. Now, personally, I don't see this as a negative thing, because I think that our planet and our cosmos knows exactly what it's doing. And this is part of a cycle that we go through continually. And when our civilization gets to the state that it's in, and we just have to look around to see how broken we are and how damaged we are and how much pain and suffering we are inflicting on each other and on our planet. When we look at ancient texts, we can tell that whenever our planet, whenever civilization was in this state, there was always some type of purifying. And when we look to what the Hopi say and we look to what the Maya say, they all talk about this burst of light being emitted from the galactic core. And this is a purifying light that changes everything. In fact, this light doesn't just affect our planet, it affects everything within our galaxy. And we have to already understand that we are receiving this light, probably not as intensely as we will in June when we experience this shockwave, but we are experiencing this light from the galactic core already. And this light then is emitted through the Orion Nebula and other constellations like the Pleiades and other stars like Sirius. They all play a part in transmuting this light into something that benefits us. And at certain times of the cycle, the light isn't so beneficial, or the light is restricted in some way. Now, I believe all the light actually transmutes through our sun, and our sun is like a lens. And what's happened is that the Venus transit, and you know, Venus is a very important planet. Even when you look back into mythology, Venus is a very important planet. And I've done many videos in regards to how important Venus is within this cycle. Because the Maya say that when Venus transits the sun for the last time in this 26,000 year cycle, then it actually flicks some type of switch within the sun and it changes the cycle within the sun. Now, this makes sense when we understand that we live in an electric universe. And so what we're experiencing now is the sun changing its cycle. We had a Venus transit this year in June, on the 5th and 6th of June, and interestingly enough, this was utilized by the Power Elite for the Jubilee ceremony, the 60th Jubilee ceremony for the Queen. I find that quite interesting. This was no coincidence. The Power Elite know very well how powerful these alignments and this light is, and so they utilize it for their benefit. So we have to understand that the occult sciences aren't inherently evil, and we shouldn't fear them, because energy is actually neutral. There is no really good or bad energy, or evil or good energy. It's neutral, and it's our perspective that changes that energy, or our intent that changes that energy. So we saw the Venus transit happening on the 5th and 6th of June, and then we actually saw a Venus transit, because they come in pairs 8 years apart, back in, surprise, surprise, 2004. Okay, this time it was June 8th, 2004, but I find it interesting that this transit of Venus occurred in 2004, and we also got this huge gamma ray burst from the galactic core in the same year. Now, unfortunately, we also experienced that horrible tsunami that affected Indonesia and killed over 100,000 people. But once again, it's showing us that there is a correspondence here. There are cycles and cycles and cycles. And there are so many cycles that are so large that we have no understanding because they are something that we could just not fathom. I mean, our brains can probably not process a lot of the mechanisms within this universe. We just are not evolved enough to understand the extent of what our universe encompasses. And that's why we use linear models and expanding universe theories, because we have to take it back to something that is easier for us to understand. The universe is infinite and unchanging and static. It doesn't move. It has always existed forever, and it will always exist forever. And that's really hard for humans to process, that there was no beginning and no end, and there never will be a beginning and end. It just is. It just always is. And unfortunately, because we've been programmed for thousands of years, it doesn't help our situation when we're finding this new information. But we really need to stretch our imagination. This is part of becoming conscious. Stretching our imagination, changing our perception, looking at things differently, throwing out the rules that we've been given and told to live by, and embracing new rules, new ideas, new theories, new observations. You know, once again, it comes down to bringing it back to yourself. And if something doesn't resonate with you, even something that I bring to you, then you need to dismiss that and go and find other information. You know, I'm not here to tell everybody that I have the truth and the facts and all of the information. What I do is research, and I join dots together, and then I bring you what I find, and I try and piece it together to make some type of sense and give us some type of understanding. But what we're trying to do here is to perceive the reality that we really do exist in, not the one that they've created for us, because it's all about our perception. If we can't perceive how powerful we are and how limitless we are and how beautiful the cosmos is and how connected we are to Mother Earth and to our sun and to all the cycles, then we really can't experience a new reality. We have to understand that. This is the reason that they program us and keep us in such limit and, you know, in little boxes of indoctrination. They don't want us ever finding out the truth about ourselves and the truth about how powerful we really are. Even though quantum physics shows us that we can create our own reality, we do it all the time. Reality is only in existence once it's perceived. So, you know, we need to start thinking along those lines more. Anyway, so I'm not going to read the entire article. I just wanted to show you this gamma ray burst, and as I said, you just need to look through this article and try and discern between the flat earth science and the truth. I'll post the electric universe theory underneath, or the electric universe thunderbolts group underneath the video, and I really do recommend that you look at that if you want an alternative theory to try and understand the mechanisms of the universe in which we exist. And seriously, the electric universe theory, you do not to have a, you know, you don't need a PhD to understand this theory. It's easy for anyone with average intelligence to wrap their mind around. So I definitely think that we are in for a big year, guys. We have this G2 cloud due to collide with the galactic core in June, which is interestingly the solstice. So I just think that we pay attention and, you know, stay centered, stay at peace. This is what 2012 was all about. All these challenges that we've been experiencing were all there to test us so that we could move beyond our patterns and our programs, and so we can start benefiting from the new perception and, you know, what these coming times will bring us. Things are going to get a bit tough and things are going to get a bit messy, but if we've got our heart in the right place and if we're walking the middle road, we will do well in these times. All right, guys, well, I really will leave it here. I'm coming to the end of my 15 minutes, posting everything underneath, and as always, peace out.